What's up, coral people? My name is Remy, and this is part 3 of my macro algae display build series. In this video, we're gonna do some fun stuff. I'm gonna do a quick scape, we're gonna set up the equipment, and then we're gonna fire this bad boy up. If you missed the last 2 parts in the series, make sure to go back and check those out before you move on. Part 1 is a basic overview on why in the world anybody would want to grow algae willingly in a display tank. And in part 2, I talk about all the equipment that I'm gonna be using during this build in depth. I definitely go into further detail on why I chose each one of these pieces for this macro algae display. All right, it's time to get to the fun stuff. Aside from my head blocking the BRS TV logo in all of my shots, the studio's kind of coming together. I got blinds. For those OG Bahama Llama Coral viewers, that's a huge deal. That's a big deal. It's been like 2 years. All right, enough about the blinds. I have selected a spot for the macro algae display tank to sit in the studio. For me, on this build, I purchased a really cool console table from a local woodworker who rehabs old wood from barns and things like that, so it's gonna be a really cool spot. I wanted to make this something special so that it was part of the interior decoration of this room that we're sitting in. I can't wait to show you the vision that I have in my head when it's all set up and we've got everything fired up and going and macro algae is in the tank. All right, let's go ahead and start with the scape. I'm not gonna go too crazy with this. I'm really looking for a minimalistic look. I really want to let the macro algae be the star of the show here and fill in a lot of that negative space. So this is why you should visualize what it's going to look like in the future when it's all grown in. Remember, when you're working with the Carib Sea Life Rock, you can always bust it up into smaller pieces. I tend to do this with the rock that doesn't really have a unique shape or size. Rubble rock is perfect to fill in those little gaps and make sure that you give your scape a unique look. Next, we'll go ahead and add the sand. On one side of the aquarium, I'm gonna go a little bit shallower. And on the other side of the sand bed, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper. So we kind of have a sloping action from one side of the aquarium to the other. Not gonna lie, I took a little bit of inspiration from my good friend Dennis, Tigerboy H2O on Instagram. If you're looking for inspiration on your macro display, make sure to cruise around Instagram. There's some really, really cool tanks out there. And as these macro display tanks become a little bit more popular, there's gonna be more and more inspiration that you can draw from a creative standpoint. Let's go ahead and start with the light. So the AI Prime has a variety of different mounting options. I went ahead and I chose the gooseneck option for now. But ideally, when this is all done, I really wanna retrofit the Prime into some sort of floor lamp so that it disguises what's actually inside. Or it might be cool to do like a hanging pendant light from the ceiling. For me, I'd like to get as much equipment off of the tank as I possibly can, but for now, the gooseneck will work just fine. Now let's move to the hang on the back filter. We're gonna go ahead and mount this on the back of the aquarium. Normally, I like to go from either side just to kind of get it out of the way and it's not visually in the background, but for this case, I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the back of this tank. I may decide to move it to the side once the gooseneck for the AI Prime is out of the way, but we'll see what happens. That's part of the beauty when your tank is cycling. You can kind of take note of what equipment goes best where, what looks good aesthetically, and you can go ahead and change that when nothing is in the tank. Next, we'll place the heater and go ahead and set the Inkbird. So I'm just gonna keep this at 78 degrees. That's kind of standard for what I keep all of my tanks at. So we're gonna go ahead and stick with that 78. And voila, just like that, we have the start of what is going to be a very beautiful macro algae display tank. From here, I am going to add a little bit of turbo start from Fritz to start the cycle. Now, some of you who may have capped macro algae in the past know that you don't necessarily have to cycle the tank to keep macro algae. And that's totally true. Some algae actually consume ammonia. But for this tank, I'd like to have some special inhabitants. I'd like to have inverts, and maybe even some gorgonians or some cool leather coral down the road. These special inhabitants that I just mentioned, you may know them very well if you follow me on Instagram at Bahama Llama Coral or on my YouTube channel. They have grown up quite a bit and they are ready for a new tank. From this point, I'm gonna go ahead and order the macro algae from AlgaeBarn. They're gonna send me some stuff. They also provided the turbo start for this build. And once this bad boy is cycled, we're gonna go ahead and add all of the plants to the tank. That will be in the next episode. It looks so much cleaner back here, doesn't it? With the logo and the blinds. I'm sure when people who had never met me before on YouTube saw the cardboard in the windows, they were like, who did they hire? Where does this guy live? Who is he? How does he keep reef tanks in his basement? Psh, I got that Labor Day sale on them blinds. You just gotta procrastinate long enough, you'll get a great deal. Join me in Macromania with my display refugium starter kit from the link right here. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. We'll see you next time. That sounded weird the first time. We'll see you next time. I don't know, that's weird. Sorry.